Hey guys, well good afternoon and welcome to my Balochistan guide for foreigners. Now I say that this is the Balochistan guide for foreigners, but that's because I'm going to talk quite a lot about the NOC, everything it takes to get it, what it looks like, etc., and also about security. But I am also going to talk a lot about logistics, like how to get around, where to stay, etc. So for that, yes, it's great for Pakistanis. If you're looking, I'm going to put chapters in the video so you could fast forward to see what you want. But I'm going to share it all. Okay, now a couple of things before we get started. If you're new to my channel and you found this because you were Googling or searching on YouTube for a particular topic and my video came up, my name is Angela Carson. I'm the foreigner to have spent and traveled the longest in Balochistan. In decades is what we're guessing. The foreigner who's not working there or with an NGO or on a special assignment. I was just traveling around for fun, enjoying myself, and I spent 52 days so far in 2021. Well, I say so far, but in my heart of hearts, I know I'm not going back again before I leave Pakistan, which should be in the next month, sadly. So I'm a bit of an expert when it comes to Balochistan. I actually do consulting for travel agencies and tour companies outside of Pakistan who are going to bring people in, giving them all of the information that they need to help build their itineraries, etc. So you are going to be in good hands here in this video. Everything I'm telling you is firsthand experience, and hopefully it will get you set up to have the most amazingly wonderful time in Balochistan when you come for your trip. Okay, now one more thing before we get going. This is not a travel video. I'm going to put shots of my Balochistan trips in here just because I have a feeling this is going to get quite long and you're not going to want to watch my face the entire time. But except for showing you what an NOC looks like, this is going to be me talking and explaining valuable tips and information that you need when you're considering a trip to Balochistan. So if you're looking for a travel vlog, so far I've put out 23 travel vlogs on, well, there's only 3 places left on my bucket list that I wasn't able to get to in my 3 trips to Balochistan. So if you want to go back and look at any of the 23 videos I have up so far, I have 2 more coming out still. And let me show you, I've also spoken on behalf of the Chief Minister and the government of Balochistan, not the government of Balochistan, that makes it seem like I'm sponsored. I was never sponsored. I have spoken at an event as well, the Islamabad Tourism Forum, about Balochistan. Here's a couple seconds of that. So I want to talk to you a little bit about Balochistan today. Where Pakistan is misunderstood on the world stage, I feel like Balochistan is misunderstood here domestically. So this video, not a travel video, so please don't expect this to be super exciting, but I will put images of my trip up and I'll do it in chronological order so you can see from my first trip to my last trip, which was Gwadar, how the evolution of my travels. You can also, I had eye surgery in Pakistan. I had my eye bags removed. I did plastic surgery. So the beginning videos, you'll see I had really swollen under eye, and the latter videos, it's not there anymore. So just, that was a stupid random fun fact. All right, let's get started. Okay, now the number one question that I'm asked, honestly, more than anything else, is about the NOC. The NOC, I can't remember what it even stands for. I will put it right there. It's basically the authorization and entry permit that you need to travel legally. Now, if you're looking to just go to Astola Island or even to Gwadar, I know that there are travel companies, primarily out of Karachi, who do that illegally. Well, not sure if it's illegal, but they do not get the required permit that a foreigner is supposed to have. But they take people somehow safely through, so I don't know how they're doing that. I didn't ask any of the police teams like how that's allowed, because generally speaking, aside from Rosie Gabriel, she is the only foreign female who I personally know of who was given the permission to travel without security through Balochistan. Every other foreigner is required to have security, and the NOC is what puts that process in place and starts that mechanism moving. So you need an NOC, and here's how it works. I will tell you that it took me 3 rounds of trying to find the right travel company to obtain my very first NOC. The first travel company that I tried to go with, who promised that they would help and they were really looking forward to the trip and this and that, they tried to extort me for money. They told me that the government official in Quetta, in Balochistan, was asking for a bribe. That was completely untrue. You will never hear of any government official asking for a bribe with anything having to do with the NOC. So when that happened, I actually contacted the Pakistan Tourism Development, the PTDC, the Tourism Board of Pakistan. And I happened to be in touch with who's now like the top guy at the PTDC, but at the time he wasn't. And I contacted him and just said, hey, this is what's happened. Do you think they're really trying to charge me $1,000? Is that how it works? Is it corrupt? And he's like, Angela, that is not correct. No one there would do that. You need to change. And he actually gave me, I had already tried talking to another travel company in between the time before I spoke to him. And in the end, he's like, look, you just want to go with City Express. They're the only player in Balochistan, basically. And at the time in January, that was true, January 2021. So I don't know if that's still true, but they were the only tour company with an office in Quetta. There's lots of travel companies, tour operators that operate out of Karachi, Islamabad, even Lahore. But as far as being based and set up in Quetta and having those direct contacts where they can just walk over to the home office or the interior office and check on NOCs and check on documents, etc., they were it. And within a few days, my NOC was granted. And okay, I've also done this going through points of contact. But you have, all right, let me figure out how to say this right. Because I traveled so much and I was shooting so many videos, I have contacts now in every single district within Balochistan. I have contacts with the Chief Minister's office because there had never really been someone like me trying to document travel as a foreigner quite in the way that I did it. And everyone was very appreciative and grateful. So I now have contacts kind of everywhere, which is great. But I will tell you that without the contacts that I have, I would go through either City Express, or hopefully there are more travel companies, tour operators out of Quetta now when you're watching this video, because that's going to be the only way to do it. Now, it could be that you get asked for a letter. When I was going through my contacts, twice when I submitted my request for an NOC myself, I had to write a letter. This is what my letter of request looked like. So the tour company will either request you to present a letter like this, and they'll use that as like backup material when they're submitting their request. Or there are forms. And I remember seeing the forms, but I didn't save the forms. So I'm sorry I can't show that to you. but your tour company should complete those for you. I was never asked by City Express to complete those documents. It was done by someone on their team. So when you go with the right tour company, it's going to be painless and fabulous. It's also free of charge. Now, they don't charge for the NOC, but the tour company could charge for their time, right? But generally, whatever tour company you're going with, they need to get the proper documentation for you to be able, for you to take whatever package you're signing on to or whatever tour you've signed up for. So just know that there should be no fee attached to the NOC. Now, when it comes back, it looks like one of these documents here. This, I've had a couple of different scenarios of NOCs. One, I was basically, because of some of the locations I was going to and the list of videos that I had wanted to shoot, there weren't places to stay where I was going to be doing these video shoots. And generally speaking, they don't allow foreigners to just camp wherever they want or stay anywhere. So you'll see that on one of my NOCs, it just says that security is going to be taken care of. On this particular NOC that I'm showing you now, you can see that it also says my accommodations and all of that. Because in some of those areas, the only place that you can sleep, eat, go to the toilet, are at official government properties. And it's generally like, they have these houses, they're called circuit houses or DC houses. And the first time I went, I was given like a normal room that was a little bit on the scrappy side. The last time I went, because like everyone's quite grateful for the videos, I got upgraded to a suite. It was very nice. But depending on what you're there for, if you're just a normal tourist and you're not there like as a journalist or shooting videos, etc., you're going to have to work within the confines of what the tour company will do for you. So you probably won't be able to go and stay overnight in some of the locations like someone who's like has an agenda that is also promoting Balochistan could do. So just keep all of that in mind. But the NOC, it can take weeks to get. It can take days. I would say give it like at least start about 3 weeks in advance, talking to the tour company and all of that, because the office in Quetta does get backed up. If it's around a holiday, if it's around Eid or Ramadan or any holiday, like quite literally any holiday, start like 6 weeks in advance or longer, especially if it's Ramadan, because Ramadan kind of almost all of Balochistan shuts down for the entire month. It's wild. When I happened to be there for Ramadan, like the beginning of Ramzan is what they call it in Pakistan. And I was the only guest at the Pearl Continental Gwadir for the entire week I was there. It was the craziest thing. I've never actually experienced something like that in a place that big. It was a little bit like being in the Shining movie, but not scary. Okay, I think that's it about the NOC. You need to have a legal visa. My visa was actually my first visa that I had when I came, because I've renewed twice now, 3 times. It was about to expire and I actually had to wait. My NOC had arrived, but I had to wait to enter Balochistan until my visa renewal came in. And so that was a bit of an issue. So make sure that you have a visa that is current and will be current the entire time that you'll be in Balochistan, because they will ask you for that and you have to provide that in advance. So that was something I learned the hard way. That was going to complicate, it did. Like I actually had to stay almost 2 weeks in Karachi at a hotel just waiting for my visa extension. That was like long overdue. So anyway, just know that in advance. Okay, now logistics. I have flown in and out of Gwadar. I've driven in and out from Karachi. Karachi the first time when I was almost 10 days on the road. 9 days on the road. On my very first trip in January 2021. And I drove in from Karachi for that. I've also driven back and forth from Karachi to Gwadar. And I've flown on that first trip. I started in Karachi and then ended in Quetta. And I flew out of Quetta. So the airports are tiny, like really tiny. But the airlines generally are quite efficient there. If you're just going to Gwadar, I would highly recommend just flying. It's a really long drive otherwise. If you're going to be road tripping, then you definitely need a vehicle. Now, the only vehicle that worked for any of the trips that I went on, because again, I was going to remote locations, waterfalls, places like in Jalmaxi where there were no roads at times. Same in Kuzdar as well. So depending on what you're planning to do and if you're going to be on roads or going to like amazing, gorgeous spots that very few people have been to, like you need a 4-wheel drive, either SUV or truck. And they run about, I think the average is maybe around 15,000 Pakistani rupees per day for the 4-wheel drive vehicle, like a minimum charge on the 4-wheel drive vehicle. Maybe 12 to 15 is what I remember. So it's going to be your biggest expense. The only other way to do that would be to hire a car and driver. But in January 2021, there were no car and driver services that would pick up. You either have to be in Karachi and hire one from there. But it's very difficult to do it out of anywhere but Karachi. And most of them don't want to go in for road trips. They'll do back and forth to Gwadar and along the Makran coast. But that's kind of it. So if you're planning some kind of adventure, because I contacted so many car and driver companies, I even offered them like promotions in my video, like I offered them cash, promotions, everything, and they all just say no. So I know that there was a company that was trying to lease vehicles and was going to open up out of Quetta and probably Gwadar a car and driver service. So you could fly into one of those two cities and start your adventures there. But just know that the car and driver, that's going to be your biggest expense and possibly like the most challenging logistics wise to sort out for your entire trip. Okay, what else? Hotel. So, all right, so your two biggest hotels in the entire province are either the Pearl Continental Gwadar or it's the Serena Quetta. Now, just a fun fact, the Serena Quetta has my favorite suite of any hotel that I stayed at, and I think I've reviewed like 25 hotels in Pakistan at this point, and they had my favorite suite. Fabulous. It's a really pretty hotel. Pearl Continental Gwadar has a gorgeous view, like my favorite view of any place that I've stayed. So if you're staying in either of those two cities principally, I would just tuck into either of those hotels because they're fabulous and the best. Now, there are other properties. For foreigners, you're very limited. In Quetta, for example, I think that there are only 3 approved properties that you can actually stay at. The Serena is the most expensive. From there's one army-owned place either in Lahore at Defense Raya. I don't remember the name of the one in Quetta, but you can stay there. Or there are a couple of like 2/3 star places in Quetta, but I've spoken to foreign friends who've stayed there, and they said that they were really clean and they were very happy and all of that. So you can stay on a budget in Quetta and the other cities, unless you're staying at like Serena or Pearl Continental. The other cities, they're like 2-star sort of restaurant / motels is mainly what you're going to get. There are guest houses in more popular tourist places, especially along the coast, but foreigners are generally not allowed to stay there if you're on a proper NOC. You can only stay at very certain places. So I was lucky in that it was approved for me to stay at, someone lent us their home right on the beach on my first trip, and my entire security team we all stayed in the house. And whenever we stayed anywhere really except Serena or PC, they would stay in a room next to me. But you can find places to stay, but you have to go to the major cities. So you have to keep that in mind, like where are you starting off from in the morning and where you want to end up. Food also gets to be an issue after a while. Well, no, not after a while. Food is just an issue as well. So there are like amazing dabas, which are like what's a daba? It's not a cafe. It's like a really simple restaurant generally where men who are working in the area will come and have a meal if they haven't brought their food from home. So you can get food there, but sometimes it runs out. Like the owners have made so much food, and if we got there after they had already sold out, we were kind of out of luck and we're stuck with like bread and chai. But it's not like there are proper restaurants everywhere. There aren't. So kind of keep that in mind. And just the same as you're planning like where you're taking off from and where you're sleeping each night, because it's limited. Same thing with food. So plan your meals accordingly. I'm not a breakfast person, and that kind of bit me in the ass a few times because I didn't really eat breakfast before leaving in the mornings, and then we didn't find anywhere to eat until quite later in the day. And anyway, just have a bunch of snacks with you and some fruit. And speaking of fruit, I feel like I'm just rambling now. Sorry. There's a lot to say. There's a lot people don't know because it's just there aren't very many people that have traveled there, so forgive me. It's also really hard to find things like fruit because I normally in the morning I have a piece of fruit or two and some coffee, and that's it for me. And it was really, really difficult in Balochistan to find fruit at all. It really is a place where there isn't a lot of money in Balochistan, and things like fruit are quite a luxury in some areas. So keep all of this in mind and your expectations in check when you're planning your trip. There's nothing, stock up on fruit when you see it. Like some places like out in the middle of nowhere would have it. Like when I went with my buddy Saif from the YouTube channel Balochistan Land of Beauty, we were going out near Noshki, which is to the west of Quetta. And when we were stocking up on drinks before we were making our final approach to where we needed to go off and start hiking to get up to the shrine, the little roadside store that we stopped at had a ton of fruit. It was crazy. We bought bags of it. So when you can find it, get it and stock up a little bit. But just know that things like that are just, it's a common issue. So you just like never get disappointed in anything. Just roll with the punches and it's going to be great. Okay, now security. This again is just for foreigners, Pakistanis or foreigners with a Pakistani ID do not need security. Security is provided free of charge by the government. And it's not because Balochistan is unsafe. Balochistan is a much safer place than my home state of California, which I say over and over again now because it really drives me crazy, especially it breaks my heart. All right, Western media has basically caused such a negative perception of Pakistan in the world, right? But you would think that people in Pakistan would know better about Balochistan. But there's a negative perception about Balochistan, even domestically. And it's a pity because honestly, like when I spoke at the Islamabad Tourism Forum, I had all these stats and figures on Balochistan, and I compared them to California, and there were like 140 like murders in 2019 in Balochistan by firearm, I think was my stat. In California, it was like 1,500. And so I keep trying to get people to like understand that Balochistan is safe. It's just one bad incident involving a foreigner that gets broadcast around the world is going to undo the good that has been happening over these past years of Pakistan rebuilding its reputation, of Balochistan getting a name out there for itself as well. Because honestly, if I still haven't been to the north, I think I may go before I leave Pakistan, but I didn't want to go to the north because I don't enjoy the cold. The only times I ever go to the mountains or like lakes and mountains would be if I was snow skiing. In fact, I'm 50 years old. I've been to 37 countries. The only time I've purposely gone on a holiday where I wasn't skiing to the mountains or like a lake region was to the French Alps for the Millennium New Year in 1999. It's just not my thing. So for me, Balochistan called to me in a more primal way anyway. But I also love the underdog, and I hate being, everybody told me to go to the north. Every Pakistani tells me to go to the north. Pakistanis say that you haven't been to Pakistan unless you've seen the north. But that's a horrible thing to say. Like, can you imagine if, like, as a Californian, I said, oh, you haven't been to America unless you've been to San Diego or been to LA or San Francisco, or that's horrible. Like, America has geographically diverse landscapes, and it's beautiful from the deserts to the mountains to the coasts. Each coast is different, all of that. And I can't imagine like defining a country so infinite, you know what I mean? Anyway, if you're Pakistani and watching this, please stop saying that. I have been here for 9 months. I have seen a lot and I've experienced a lot, and Balochistan is still my favorite of all of it. And I'm still hoping in 18 months there's a job that I want in Gwadar that is, there's things that need to happen first and it won't be ready for 18 months. But I'm still hoping to come back and work here and live in Balochistan. So please stop saying that. Okay, I was talking about security. My God, that was a tangent. Sorry. Let me see. Okay. It's safe in Balochistan, but I do understand why they do what they do and why they require the security protocol to not undo the good work that's been happening. So until such time as things change, just know if you're foreign, you are going to have security detail. I'm going to explain to you now exactly how that works and what it feels like, right? So basically, I'm just going to tell you about like I'll tell you a few things. So when I first went to Balochistan in January, basically right after crossing through with the truck, we were met by an ATF team, which is the anti-terrorist force. Hold on. This is their hat. So I work out at night and I wear this all the time. The ATF team met our truck, and then basically, because I was in Las Bella, you're coming in, you're going to Las Bella. That district was where I was the first few days. So I had the same team for those first days. But each team is only working within the confines of a district. So for ATF, once I was finally done, we spent the first day dolphin watching. Second day was at Hingle National Park. Third day I went to camel racing and went to some caves, and it was amazing. So the fourth day when they did the pass off and I went into the district of Kuzdar, it was another team that picked us up. Now, when we went into the rural areas as well, a levies team would meet us. Hold on. Okay, I've got my levies cap and my cute beret that I love so much. Wait. Yeah. Thank you for sending me the hats, everybody. So the levies team work in rural areas. So when you're in the cities, you either have police or ATF. If you're in rural areas, that is going to be the levies. Now the levies guys are also these super knowledgeable about like secret hidden gem kind of guys. So if you're there to adventure around and travel and aren't just going to the main touristy spots, like have a chat or have whoever's with you chat with the levies guys, because they took me to a couple of spots that I would have never have found if it hadn't been for them. It's fantastic. All the guys are really, really nice. Out of like 52 days, there was one policeman who I couldn't get to smile at me ever. I think he was not like having fun, because I stop and go if I need to fly the drone, or like being with me can get very annoying, or being with any vlogger, because you have to stop and it's not as like I'm going from point A to point B. Sometimes I need to stop and capture things along the way, and he would get really annoyed with me. But generally speaking, everyone's very nice, and the teams are just there for you. Now, the other really important part of security, and why foreigners, like it's a little bit more complicated for a foreigner to travel, well, a lot more complicated than a local, is because when you're going even from like within the districts, for sure, but also between like regions within the district, if you have to change levies teams, there has to be constant communication with a human that's with you. So this is your focal person. So the first time I went, it was with City Express. I had one gentleman from the travel company with me. Mohsen was my focal person. He was on the phone all the time, because every time we cross through a different part of the district, that like police team or levies team, or they would want to get an update from him. And so know that even if you're going to travel on your own, you need an Urdu or Baloch speaking person with you. and they need to have a local phone number. It can't be like my iPhone was blocked. So they need to have a fully working phone. They get Zong, or yeah, I think Zong is the one that works really great in Balochistan. But you need someone there because they're going to be on the phone many, many, many times a day, especially when you're road trip. Well, if you're road tripping, not if you're not road tripping. If you're just flying in and out, you don't need that. But if you're going to be traveling around, you need that person with you and someone who can communicate in local language. Okay, I have no idea how long I've been talking now at this point, but it feels like all day. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that you need to know. Like as far as I took the first trip, I only had Jazz for my Wi-Fi. And that only worked in like major cities. So definitely get, okay, there's, oh, what was the name of that one? There's, oh, okay. Zong is what I have now, and Zong worked really, really well on my second and third trips to Balochistan. So I would suggest getting, hold on. Okay, so they're really cheap here. It's like 2,500, 3,000, so like $18 from Zong to buy the unit, and then you pay for a package. So I upload a lot of video and I consume a lot of Netflix, so I always get a package that's at least like 60 to 70 gigabytes per month. So that's around like 2,000 to 3,000 rupees per like bundle, which is like $15 US. So it's really cheap, but you're gonna want one of those. I would suggest getting two because the networks don't always work. There's another one that I wished I had that all the locals had, which only when I was in Jalmaxi, I couldn't get my Zong to work. I couldn't get Jazz to work. They ended up helping me upload a video using one of the staff at a place I was staying. It's called a Wingle, and it's an actual dongle, like a USB dongle, and it's called a Wingle, I think is what it was. But if I was ever going back and doing another road trip, I would take Zong, and I want one of those Wingles things. And dingle, dongle, wongle, Wingle. I think it's definitely called a Wingle. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. Just all I can tell you is that Balochistan truly like owns a piece of my heart now. And I say this all the time in other videos, but it really does look so much like Southern California that to me I always feel like I'm going back home when I go to Balochistan. All right, I think I'm just babbling now. I wish you a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. I am on my last weeks, I'm not sure how many, in Pakistan. If you follow my channel, you know I let my Malaysia visa lapse. I let it go because I thought I was going to live in Pakistan. But in the end, I decided that wasn't, I think Malaysia's better for me right now. Because I was going to set up my own company here, and there were just so many ifs and variables, and I think I just spit again. But yeah, so now I'm waiting. The Malaysia visa should be finished like any day-ish, week-ish now. So once it is, I go down to Karachi for a couple of days, go to the Malaysian embassy, consulate, embassy, one of those two, pick up my visa, and then I am out of here. But it's been a wonderful time, and truly Balochistan was the best of that. So I'm putting a link down below to my Balochistan playlist. If you've watched all the way to the end, I send the biggest hug to you. Thank you so much. And I will see you in the next video, which I have 2 more Balochistan videos to launch. One for Camel NGO and one for Pure Gabe. which is this beautiful waterfall, but I lost all of my talking footage, so I have to reshoot myself explaining all about Pier Gabe. But I do have 2 more Balochistan videos coming out, so I hope you'll stay tuned. All right, guys, take good care, be safe, wear a mask. Ciao.